Okay, today we are looking at analyzing a four-bedroom single family home as a Section 8 rental. Okay, and the reason we're doing this is because we're looking at one, how to find the rents for your property. And then two, I want to help you just determine what rents do you use for your actual underwriting, right? We're gonna look at rents today from affordablehousing.com, the rent ceilings from HUD FMR, and also from some of your comparable properties on Zillow. So you can kind of see how we make it all come together. And then we're going to go and adjust all of the properties underwriting details, meaning we're going to go through all the inputs. We're going to change them around so that we can figure out, hey, how do you arrive at a ROI or return investment? We also call that cash on cash return that could make something a deal for you specifically. It's not investment advice. We're not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm just simply showing you all how to go through the motions of understanding how to put numbers from a deal in a calculator so that you can decide whether or not it's a deal for you. Okay. All right. So now I am filtered right now on Redfin in Birmingham, four-bedroom single family homes on the market for less than 7 days. And I came across this property in Bessemer for 170 grand. Okay. Now, just for those of you that have not seen the podcast before, I would highly recommend you, if you're really interested in this market, check out the podcast I did with Daisy Sebastian. We talked about some of the top markets in Birmingham for families, including Hueytown, Centerpoint. So make sure you check that out. All right. Now, for this property, let's get back to it. This property is 1028 Barnes Drive, Bessemer, Alabama 35020. And at initial glance, when I looked at the property, I mean, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. I mean, it's pretty much rent ready. It's average, slightly above average in terms of the finishes. It's not super modern, but it's ready to go, in my opinion. Okay, there's not much that you need to do. Maybe there's some stuff with the roof or the HVAC that I cannot see right now. For example, I don't see a cage. I don't see a cage on the HVAC, so that might be a recipe for it getting stolen. So I would highly recommend at least putting a cage on that property. There's a little shed here. I'm not going to touch that one at all. So for this property, 1028 Barnes Drive, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in these details into the calculator. Okay. This is a property that I can get for $170,000. Okay, and I'm just going to go down to inputs, right? $170,000. My rehab, I want to delete this multiplied by three because yesterday we tripled the rehab to see what that scenario would look like. And I'm going to look to my rehab calculator spreadsheet. I'm going to put in $1,500 for the roof repair. Okay, I'm going to put in $500 for some landscaping to keep it nice and tidy. I don't need any paint right now. I'm assuming the photos are current and it reflects the property as is. Don't need to do any flooring work. I think I need to put in a refrigerator, a range hood, probably I don't need a microwave. I think we're good. And then I need to put in two toilets that are high pressure flush toilets in row 132 because I have these at my rental properties and I've never gotten a clogged toilet call. So I'm keeping that as is. Then I got a cage for my HVAC system, right, in row 191 for $900. And if you don't see this in your spreadsheet, just add it right in. I just started adding that one in because I had my HVAC stolen, unfortunately. And once it happens to you, you vow to never let it happen again. All right. So that costs about $5,000 to replace that. All right. So at $8,000, where's $8,000 come from? $900 right there. Oh, I got the refrigerator in a range, so that's where I got the 8,000. Okay, so I got 8,000 total renovation budget. My next input here is the monthly income rents. And I'm going to show you three areas to look at rents, okay? First thing you want to do is you want to look up HUD FMR, HUD FMR. Click on the first link. Then the second link you want to click on is this thing called Access to Small Area FMRs, which stands for Fair Market Rents. When you click on Look Up FY 2025 Small Area FMRs, that allows you to select the state that the property is in and the county. This property is in Jefferson County. And now you're going to see by bedroom count, by zip code, what your rent ceiling is. And you can see right here that the rent ceiling right now for a four bedroom in 35020 is 1580, 1580. Okay, 1580. and 35020. And now, because this is a rent ceiling, usually that doesn't include any utilities. Okay, so in that scenario, you have to go look at your market rent. And so you can compare it against the two. When you go to affordablehousing.com and you go to the owner section and you go to the market rent estimator, you plug in the address, plug in a bedroom count, and you see right here that the average rent for 25 units within a 2.3% mile radius, it says it's 1754. Now, I know having analyzed this deal over this market over and over, I know that 1700 is really high. It's getting skewed by something, and I don't know what. So in that scenario, I'm gonna go double check my numbers. I'm gonna go to Zillow. So here I am in Zillow, and I looked up the zip code 35020. I'm looking at properties that are for rent, that are 4 bedroom plus, they're single family homes. And I see all these properties in 35020. And when I look at the map, right, this property is in the southeast side of Bessemer. So when I look at the southeast side of Bessemer in Zillow, and I see this property is 4 bed, 2 bath, 1667 square feet. So a little smaller than this one. Listed for 1250. This property has been on Zillow for 32 days and there's been 57 contacts. That's a great price because that means it's underpriced in my opinion. Because in general on Zillow, you want there to be for every day it's on Zillow, you want one contact. If you have twice as many contacts as you have your property on Zillow, then that probably means that you are underpriced. Okay. Now let's look at other properties. This property is 1200, but it's only one bathroom, 1300 square feet. Is there any demand here? 60 days, 24 contacts. This tells me that this single bathroom and the size of this home is not that desirable. On top of if you were to look at the condition of the home, it just feels a lot older. So no one really wants to live here. Right? The bathroom's okay, but this is probably just not what a family's looking for. Okay. What's another one? 1900 square feet. Great. So this is much more closer to ours. This is 1300 square feet. I'm $1,300 per month. I would argue that this our kitchen looks a little bit nicer than ours than this. And let's see how for 1300 bucks. This has been on sale for 3 days. It's got 58 contacts. Well, this tells me that hey, this price is really, really good. So I might be closer to 1400 to be honest with you. This one's at 1400, but 1367 square feet, but looks a lot nicer. But 27 days, only 3 contacts. So this tells me that it's really hard to exceed 1400 in this area. I don't know the square footage for this one, so it might not be an apples to apples comparison. 50 days and 11 contacts. Okay. Pockets not the square footage. How about this one? This is the probably last one. Look, 5 by 2 bath for 1450, 1688 square feet. This is only had 29 contacts. So at 1450 is higher end, right? Higher end of the price range. And that gets you a lot less contacts. So for me, I'm probably only comfortable with $1,400 for this rent for this property, based on what I've seen. And that's just based on guesstimating. I'm not saying this is science, right? I'm basing it on a judgment call based on the market that I'm seeing right now in the market. Does that mean you can't get it for 1700? Absolutely not. You absolutely can. I'm just saying based on the market right now, what I'm seeing that's available in the market and the demand, I'm not comfortable going $1,700. And you have to go the lower of the three because even though your HUD FMR is 1580, you have to pull up the Housing Choice Voucher Program Guidebook. And when you look at this thing, you go to Section 2.2, right? Housing Choice Voucher is what was previously known as the Section 8 program. They rebranded from Section 8 to Housing Choice Voucher because all the negative connotations associated with Section 8. Unfortunately, they had to do that to attract more private landlords and get more supply in the market. But besides the fact, but the most important fact here is you got to look at Section 2.2 comparability. And in this section, it says that in conducting rent reasonableness, it says that the PHA or the Public Housing Authority must determine whether the rent is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. So obviously size, unit type matters, but I'm not. I don't think that these four-bedroom properties are four-bedroom apartments because people rarely ever build four-bedroom apartments. Okay, so because these are the lower two, I had to use 1400 or 1450. I'm going to use 1400 because the 1450 was for five-bedroom. Right. So now I'm going to add in the rest of my details here from the payment calculator. I have 103 for my property taxes, so I'll put that right in here. Obviously, check your county assessor records to make sure it's right. And I got 132 over here, so I'm going to add a 20% premium by multiplying by 1.2 because otherwise, I mean, if I'm using this property as an insurance, as an investment property, other insurance companies are going to view this as a riskier asset versus a primary residence property where someone's living there full time as a homeowner. So you got to take all these factors into account. All right. So then in B32, I got 10% of my rent set aside for maintenance every single month and deferred replacements because I know that the roof is going to get replaced at some point. I know that the HVAC is going to get replaced at some point. I know the water heater is going to get replaced at some point. And if you don't set aside money right now, you're lying to yourself because you're underestimating your expenses and overestimating your profitability. Don't believe the gurus out there that says, "Oh, there's no maintenance." Oh man, they're so irresponsible. They're so I can't believe they tell people that. Oh, it's a turnkey property, so there's no maintenance. That is so not the case. Please be very cautious around folks like that. Then I got 10% set aside for property management expenses, and I got 5% set aside for vacancy because someone always moves out. So for my interest rate right now, I'm gonna put this at 7.5% right now for my interest rate. And with a 7.5% interest rate, what you're gonna see right here is $170,000 purchase price. So let me write down all these details. So you rent this property out, it's 1,400 with a 25% down right here in F19. Your down payment B4, which is your asking price, times your F19 of down 25% with a 2% closing cost, you're gonna have a negative cash flow, 103 a month. That's a negative 2.3% return on your capital, assuming a purchase price of 170 grand with an $8,000 rehab, 25% down, 7.5% interest rate. So you might be asking now, hey, how do I make this a deal? Well, let's adjust the input. Watch what happens to this cash and cash return number in E9 as I lower my asking price from $170,000 to $120,000. Goes to 4.7. So let's keep going lower. How about 108? How about 100? How about 95? So if your target return is 10%, you would probably have to buy this property for $97,000, 97 grand to get a 9.8% return. 9.8, because now you're cash flowing $280 a month, assuming your rent stays constant. Your so 98 grand with a $8,000 rehab, 25% down, 7.5%. Now, let's say you're tracking the 10-year yield like we've been telling you to, right? You go to Finance Yahoo, let's see what the 10-year yield is today. 10-year yield now is at 4.288. And if you understand how the 30-year mortgage interest rates are affected by, right? It has this slow dance, this correlation with the 10-year treasury yield. Depends on one, the interest rate of the 10-year yield, which is at 4.288, and the spread between 10-year yield and the 30-year mortgage interest rates. Historically, that spread has been about 1.5% to 2%, but it's gone as high as 3%. And that's when interest rates got up to 8%. And that's when everything kind of just stopped. But if you, regardless of your politics, right? If you follow what they're talking about, right? If you look at Scott Bessent's focus on 10-year yield, you will see that Scott Bessent and his administration, they don't care about the Federal Reserve. They care about bringing the 10-year bond yields down. Then that drives mortgage rates down. So if that is the case, right? That's why you got to pay attention to this. So let's say your interest rate for a debt service coverage ratio loan or DSCR loan drops down to 6%. Well, now your cash and cash return wanted to 12.36. So now you might be willing to say put in 107 grand. Oh, I just made that up, but went up 10 grand. So now just because interest rate dropped 1.5 points to 6%, 25% down, $8,000 rehab. That's a 10% return because now you're cash on 307 a month with a $1,400 rent. And that's what interest rates can do for you because as interest rates go down, your monthly mortgage goes down, and that drives up your affordability and drives up your purchase price. Similarly, if interest rates went up, your monthly payment goes up, that drives down your affordability, which drives down the prices. Okay? Just understand that correlation, that pattern. So, one more scenario. Let's say your rehab triple. Let's say you get in there and you're like, oh, this is a cosmetic rehab. What? Look at the floors. It's not even leveled. I mean, they just did a shoddy job renovating the property. So now you multiply that by three. So now your rehab is 24 grand. Even with a 6% interest, watch what happened to your cash and cash. It sunk to 7%. So now you might have to pay, now you might be able to pay 85 grand. There you go. 88 grand. There you go. So now with a $24,000 rehab, in order for you to achieve the same target return of 9.9%, roughly 10, you have to pay, you're not cash on 393, but you can only pay $88,000 because of how high your rehab triple. So hopefully you bought that property with an inspection contingency so that you can go back and tell the seller, hey, I can't buy this for 107 anymore. I know the interest rate dropped 6%, but I got to spend an extra, my rehab just tripled. So what are you going to do? You need to back out, but at this rate, you just learn how to stay unemotional, stay focused on the numbers. Don't get attached to the deal just because you spent $300 on an inspection. All right. So hopefully this was helpful, everybody. Again, I'm not saying 10% is a magic number, right? Some people will say, hey, let me buy a home in Southern California. If I can just cash flow 10%, I mean, if I can cash flow just break even, I don't care about a couple $100 cash flow because 5% appreciation on $1 million home is $50,000 a year. That's how you build wealth. So that's why you have to talk to your own investment professionals. Understand what they're doing. Understand why your portfolio is structured a certain way. And decide what's best for you. Because some people might say, hey, let me get a blend of appreciation, a blend of cash flow. And now my portfolio is working together, where we're all diversified against different strategies. But to each their own, right? So my goal is that you analyze the same deal I analyzed today using the same spreadsheet. Again, I didn't make this spreadsheet from scratch. I got this spreadsheet from my friend Gary, and I got this rehab calculator from another friend, and I combined them, I tweaked them, and modified them so that I learned how to analyze these deals as fast as possible. And I update them all the time. So if you go to affordablehousing.io, not .com, go to affordablehousing.io, go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, plug in your name, your email, your phone number. That's the fastest way for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. And I hope you start your own YouTube channel. I'm not afraid of competition. There's so much for everyone. I'm not afraid of competition. This is collaboration. I can't thank you enough for caring about affordable housing. Without people like you, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So any chance, any way we can get more affordable housing rentals out there, I would so appreciate it. All right, I hope you all have an amazing Tuesday. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today. That's what life is all about. And you don't appreciate how much time you have with family until you don't have time with family. And I hope this is just a quick reminder for you to spend as much time as possible with them. All right. Hope you all have an amazing Tuesday. I'll spend some time with you again tomorrow. Have an amazing day. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 530. Have a good one, everybody. See you tomorrow.